Welcome to the Arrington Gavin Show. Real talk, big opinions, and fearless conversations. From the front lines of politics to the latest in pop culture. From breaking sports headlines to the stories that move the world. Nothing's off limits, and nobody's holding back. Arrington Gavin is here to break it down, build it up, and keep it all the way real. So turn it up, lean in, and let's get into it. This is the Arrington Gavin Show.
Family, welcome to the Arrington Gavin Show, your go-to spot for sharp insights, bold opinions, and unfiltered takes on the biggest stories of the day, whether it's politics, sports, pop culture, or the latest buzz. Look, we're diving deep and keeping it real, so please do me a favor, kick back, stay informed, and get ready to join the conversation. Look, my friends, on today's conversation, I'm very excited. I'm thrilled to have on my buddy Mark Moran. He is the candidate running for United States Senator here in the Commonwealth state of Virginia. Now, he's not a stranger to the show. We've had him on the last time talking about his platform, the issues he's campaigning on. He is running, at the time, he was running in the Democratic primary, hoping to unseat longtime Senator Mark Warner, who has been in this position for quite some time. Mark Warner is running on his, his fourth term now. As you know, it's six years per term. It's 6 years in one term. So he's on his fourth. Mark Warner is the heavy hitter, in the Democratic Party, not just in the Virginia Democrats. I'm talking national. Like he's a heavy hitter, right? And so obviously it's always a stretch for when someone comes out of nowhere and say, hey, look, I want to, my goal is to unseat Mark Warner. They're like, wait, what? So it was, I was very interested in having him on the first time, hearing his take. And then on top of that too, if you look at his resume, folks in the beginning are like saying, is he really qualified? Because he's a Wall Street banker as well as former reality star. So they're like, oh gosh, another reality star. But I'm like, hey, think about it now. There is a reality star in Washington. I'm gonna just leave it at that. So y'all can say, oh, I don't know if they're qualified. You just never know. So after having Mark on the program and hearing his issues, his passion, I was like, okay, I hear him, man. Look, I am a supporter of new voices. You hear me all the time. I'm not trying to be ageist here, but I'm tired of seeing career politicians. And look, I know them. Some of them are my friends on both sides of the aisle, right? I respect them. I respect their position. I respect what they their service. But at the end of the day, voters want to see new voices, new faces. They want new blood. We don't want to continue to see the same old. So that being said, again, I've been following Mark's campaign. He's going everywhere around the Commonwealth, talking to groups, large groups that is, and raising a lot of noise. Now, since the last time we've had him on, Mark has, let's just say, has been in the news. Interesting. That is, I guess you can either say helped or hurt his chances with the Democratic Party at the time. So let me first bring you up this article here, because when I was just, I'm just minding my business, just, walking in the streets, the weather's good, the birds are chirping, the flowers are blooming. I'm like, oh, on my phone, I read this Fox News article. So let me go ahead and bring up this article here and I'll read it with you all. All right. So look at this here. Look at this. Fox News says insurgent Virginia Democrat says his party is completely wrong on gun rights and gerrymandering. Strong word, insurgent. So obviously somebody that is not a fan of the political machine, right? Which, I mean, look, insurgent has been used everywhere. There's so many folks that are against, obviously, the establishment and the political machine that is. Now, let me just read you just a little bit of this article here. So, quote from let's see here. Mark says, since the establishment is already mad at me, here's another truth. Virginia Democrats are completely wrong on the Second Amendment. He shared this on his X account after invoking the of Virginia's top Senate Democrat for opposing her political charge redistricting effort. Okay, let me continue on this here. Okay. After facing a personal safety issue, I got a gun. It made me realize how extreme our party stance has become. Now, Dan Helmers July 1st ban literally classifies regular handguns as assault firearms, so the government can't take them away. Now, Helmer, a Democratic state delegate from Fairfax, did not respond, obviously, to this request for comment, but he has already launched a bid to run in one of the newly drawn congressional districts that have yet to be approved by the voters on April 21st. Now, kind of going back, as you know, Virginia is under this big, huge redistricting battle. We currently have a congressional maps 6-5, 6 Democrats, 5 Republicans. Now, with the new referendum being brought April 21st, if you vote yes, then you're voting on a temporary change until I believe the next cycle, which will be, or next census cycle, which will be 2030. So they use the word, temporary. If you vote no, then you're just saying, hey, keep it the way it is, and then we'll see the changes come 2030. Now, even though this is a nonpartisan issue, the left has been in most of the support. Putting out money on these campaign ads. They have been in support to vote yes. Don't guess, vote yes. We've seen that time and time again. I can't tell you how many commercials I have seen in vote yes. I rarely see a lot of vote no's commercial ads. I've seen maybe a small handful, but I see a lot of vote no to gerrymandering, like signs, and I've received the postage in my mail and all that stuff. And I've received vote yes, but look, vote yes has been everywhere. I just saw a commercial 3 times in a row. I was watching a TV show with my wife, and Adam Kinzinger, former congressman, was in favor of voting yes. And they have Barack Obama's voting yes. The former president, current Governor Abigail Spanberger, is in favor of voting yes. So let me continue on this here. It says here that Moran said the founding fathers crafted the Second Amendment to protect the U.S. from tyranny. Whether that tyranny comes from Donald Trump or state legislator trying to disarm you, our right to protect ourselves shall not be infringed. Now, the Falls Church native's comments irritated a handful of other Democratic figures within a few hours of his post, including Democratic strategist Adam Park-Homenico. I believe I pronounced that last name right. If I didn't, I apologize, Adam. The founder of Ready for Hillary, when the former First Lady was eyeing the White House in the mid 2010, excuse me. I can't repeat what Adam said, but he basically said, it rhymes with the word wussy, but go be that someone else's party, not doing that anymore. Then you heard from Virginia Senate President Senator Luis Lucas, a Democrat out of Portsmouth, who has posted at times raunchy memes celebrating Democrats' flip on the governorship and push to draw out all but one Republican congressman in Virginia. Labasted Moran's tweet on the matter, spurring his gun rights commentary. She says, anyone against our redistricting efforts to stand up to Donald Trump doesn't share our values as Democrats. If you want to oppose redistricting, you picked the wrong primary to run in. By the way, I endorse Mark Warner. Okay. So she shared her site on that one. Let me continue this. Moran had called his fellow Democrats categorical creativity extremely anti-democratic, and that it is a reactionary policy to Donald Trump that was created by DC consultants. He also noted the Virginia voters approved a resolution in 2019 to remove the legislature from redistricting considerations and slammed the new maps for slicing up Arlington and taking away the voices of everyone outside of Northern Virginia. A quote here, in every local Democratic committee I've been in, when this issue comes up, nobody can defend it. It's just, well, this is what the party says is best. No, the Democratic Party loses because of reactionary maneuvers and because it doesn't have a big, bold vision for the future. I can't hold my tongue any longer, despite what this will do to me with the Dems in Virginia. So that right there, y'all, was again an article from Fox News, and it's other articles from other publications, the Daily Caller. You can find it out and read it for yourself. But that being said, it has been a bit shaky between him and the Democrats. So now, fast forward, I'm continuing on my stroll. The birds are chirping, the flowers are blooming, and then I see a post from the Mark Moran campaign, and they make this huge announcement here. Let me go ahead and play you this clip.
Years ago, right here at St. John's Church in Richmond, Virginia, Patrick Henry said, "Give me liberty or give me death." My name is Mark Moran. 250 years later, I'm saying the same thing. Today, I'm going to announce that I'm breaking free from the Democratic establishment. And I'm going to run for United States Senate as an independent. I'm doing that because I'm putting our country first. I'm putting it above these divisive issues that the left, that the right, and our corporate media control. I want to talk about big, bold ideas that will save this country. We can't afford homes. We can't afford health care. We're dropping bombs on another country at the behest of another country. We're entirely controlled by corporate institutions. We make it so that when we take out a 30-year mortgage to buy a house, over 50% of what we pay over the 30 years, it goes to the bank. We're ripping off the middle class with our tax code, that the elites who are controlling us get loopholes while we don't. We need to simplify everything in this government, but we need to fundamentally restructure and turn this around so that it works for the people. Everything is wrong, and it's because money controls. That is not the system that our founding fathers designed. And I'm here to say that. I'm running as an independent because this message is about much more than me. It's about the idea of America. We're 250 years in. We have to have big, bold, beautiful ideas to change things. And it's up to us to not fall into the trap that Washington warned about, of being divided by political parties. It's time for us to unite, to realize we can close our borders, we can earn our citizenship and the right to vote, and that we can do this together. And we can put America first, we can put the Commonwealth of Virginia first, but it's up to us to take it back.
And so, that being said, ladies and gents, yes, walking away from the Democratic Party and launching as an independent to build on outside energy, anti-establishment messaging, and a direct appeal to voters fed up with both sides. Look, I've said it best. I'm an independent. I've been fed up with both sides since I'm pretty sure I was, at the age of voting. I just never thought the two-party system was a working straight. Look, there's good people. You're right on the left. There's good people on the right, but I just think in general we have to work together, and we have yet to see that. We see so much division happening. So the big question tonight, ladies and gents, is this a principal break from party politics or a strategic reinvention in one of Virginia's toughest races? Again, he says the two-party system is broken, but can an independent really shake up one of the Commonwealth's most powerful incumbents? Again, Mark joins us, and we're gonna have a great conversation, ladies and gents. So we are gonna head to a quick commercial break, and then when we come back, we will have on Mark Moran on for a great convo. Before we head to that break, of course, y'all know how to follow the show. We drop new episodes weeknights, Monday through Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's iHeart, Spotify, Apple, just to name a few. You can also listen to us on the radio airwaves. Shout out to our affiliates, KSHP 1400 AM and 107.1 FM Las Vegas, where you can tune into the Arrington Gavin Show Fridays at 8 p.m. Pacific time. Again, that's on KSHP 1400 AM and 107.1 FM Las Vegas. And then we're going to head over to the Metro Atlanta area to WDJY 99.1 FM Straight Talk, where you can chime into the show weeknights at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then we're going to head over to New Orleans, Who Dat Nation, WBOK 1230 a.m. You can tune into the Arrington Gavin Show weeknights at 7 p.m. Central Time. I want to thank all of our affiliates continuing to help us grow our audience, spread the great narrative that we have been spreading here for well over 500 shows. I'm losing count, but we are up there getting close to 600 before you know it. Do me a favor too, y'all, if you have not done so, follow us on our social medias, Instagram at the Arrington Gavin Show, TikTok, we're on there as well. You can also, if you haven't, subscribe to our YouTube channel. the Arrington Gavin Show YouTube channel. Give us a thumbs up to this video that you're tuning into right now. It helps with our algorithm. We truly appreciate the support. We have a goal to hit at least 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So continue to push that goal. Share it with family, share it with friends. I truly appreciate it. All right. So look, let's go ahead and head to a commercial break. When we come back, we got a lot more show for you. Do not change that dial. We'll be right back after this.
Every man has a story to tell. Your ambitions, your achievements, your legacy. Your suit should reflect that story, crafted precisely, designed for impact, and tailored exclusively for you. We work with only the finest fabrics, luxurious wools, silk, linen, and blends from world-renowned mills in Italy, the UK, and India. These fabrics are the foundation of custom suits that exude elegance and stand the test of time. But a suit isn't just about fabric, it's about fit, and it's about confidence, and it all starts with you. When you work with me, you'll receive a personalized consultation, whether in person or over Zoom. Together, we'll explore your vision and discuss your needs, and we're gonna bring your ideas to life. My journey as a designer includes apprenticing under New York-based designer Clavon Leonard, showcasing collections at New York Fashion Week, Algeria Fashion Week, and the prestigious Baltimore Met Gala. That experience is what we bring to every suit we create, from weddings to corporate events and everything in between. We specialize in crafting one-of-a-kind suits for life's most significant moments. Dapper Luke has been recognized as one of Baltimore's best menswear in 2023, and I was honored to be one of the 10 designers selected for the prestigious Baltimore Met Gala. With over 900 satisfied clients, we proudly serve Virginia Beach and Baltimore, bringing world-class designs to these incredible communities. We don't just make suits, we craft confidence. Your suit will fit your body, your style, and it will tell your story. Book your free online personal consultation today. Visit www.dapperluke.com.
Become a man of distinction with Rugged Evolution Beard Care. Order our scented beard oils and beard balms to help you maintain and grow the perfect beard. Order today. Try our men's care products like the full body exfoliating cleansing bars, body wash, smooth stash, and more. Log on to our website or download our app to place your orders. Rugged Evolution Beard Care. We're your luxury but affordable men's care line. And remember,
rugged is the new smooth.
And we still in traffic.
Don't look familiar, do I? Not in this seat.
Hey, what's that you listening to?
Here to host today.
Hey, turn it up.
With me?
Yeah, this that new Gold Verse app. I got you.
So y'all want to know where the goats are? They're off on the sidelines.
Looking for fresh, relevant content wherever you go?
What was the name of that he said?
Introducing GoatVerse TV.
GoatVerse, that's what it's called.
The free streaming app that brings you the best podcasts, current events, and thought-provoking opinions all in one place. Download it now from the Apple Store or Play Store. In Goats, we trust.
All right, family, welcome back to the show. As I mentioned, I'm honored to have a special guest, friend of the show, and you've heard of this gentleman before, Mark Moran. About to play April Fool's for a second. I almost said Warner for a second. Gotcha. No, Mark Moran, now independent candidate running for U.S. Senate, Virginia U.S. Senate. Let me go ahead and bring him on right now. Mark, how the hell you doing, buddy? It's been a while.
I'm doing well, Arrington. Thank you so much for having me. It has been a while, but you were the first interview I did when I announced my bid. Now I'm back with you, so I very much appreciate the opportunity.
No, look, I appreciate you taking the time out your busy schedule, man, because I know you have a big race happening for you, and I know every minute is very valuable as far as you continue to share your issues what you're campaigning on. But look, I kind of gave the audience kind of a notice, the fact that, hey, like last time you were here, you were running as a Democrat. Why the big change? I think that's the big question I want to ask. Why the big change?
Sure. And during our first interview a few months ago, we talked really about the problems with the two-party system. Mm-hmm. And that in going through this process, trying to participate in democracy with the Democratic Party of Virginia, it became very apparent to me early on that the system's designed against anyone challenging. That's why Mark Warner has run unopposed now for the fourth time. That historically, anyone who came from the outside who would try to challenge him, they would get cut down. I've been told that there's a waiting line. How dare I cut the waiting line in Virginia politics? Who do I think I am? And that to me is an affront to liberty, that we have a waiting line to participate in democracy, that I think we should live in a world where the ideas win, that he or she who has the best ideas can run on those and win. But we don't live in that world. We live in a world controlled by dark money, by corporate interests. And I believe that my message was, it was too challenging to the traditional structure of the establishment of the left to be accepted. One that, I came out against two main issues with the state party. One on gerrymandering, because that is something that if you just look at the maps, and I try to boil everything down to principles of fairness, but if you just look at these maps, they're not fair. And to have a lobster-shaped district essentially drawn for this guy, Dan Helmer, who has sacrificed probably every personal view he's ever had for the purpose of attaining power. That to me is so wrong, and exactly what is wrong with politics. And so after a while, I've been collecting these signatures. The signatures get vetted by the state party. I start looking at these signatures, and they start to look, for me as a novice, as an amateur, they start to look like a lot of these are written by the same person. And was able to run, I have about 2,000 of these over there. There's about 6,000 more that are in Richmond. And 97% conclusion that these were forged, that there was a process known as seeding, where like the first three signatures are real, the rest are forged. And the people who did that came recommended to me from Democratic operatives. And if I had turned those signatures in, then either they could have just destroyed me at the beginning saying, oh, look, this guy turned in forged signatures, or they could have, said, look, we'll put you on the ballot, but now you have to do what we want. And in the entire process, I spent a lot of time outside of Northern Virginia, where I'm from and where I currently live. And my thesis in wanting to run for office was that the two current senators do not represent the interests of anyone outside the elites of Northern Virginia. That was proven valid in every room I've entered. And I believe that it came across as too much of a threat as someone who can't be controlled by a traditional apparatus of party structure. And once I started speaking my mind, they came out against me. And I personally believe it's a uniparty in DC. And we spoke about this last time, that it's almost like watching fake political theater with these two parties, where it's like someone like a Mark Warner, he's going to say, oh, I'm against the surveillance state. But then he accepts $37,000 from Alex Karp, the CEO of Palantir. And he's supposed to be regulating banking and finance, yet his donors are Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan, of David Solomon, of Goldman Sachs, of even Blair Efron, my former boss at Centerview Partners. And I look at it as the main reason I'm running is that the corporation has more control than individuals. And that is something that the intent of this country, it was never envisioned, right? And now politicians, they're beholden to their donor class, which forces them to work for corporate interests and not work for the interests of everyday people. And I looked at it as we're 250 years into this constitutional republic experiment. And it's the greatest experiment in democracy that's ever before happened. But we're entirely captured by corporate institutions, by financial institutions, and that it's time to stand up to that. And so I wasn't going to go back down and go quietly into the night and play by their rules. So I decided, okay, let's set all this up for around April 1st, because that's a great day to bring any chaos. And my thesis in all of this is that the influence of money is what corrupts, right? And historically in politics, money has always been used to buy attention. But now with all these mediums, new mediums, and with the breaking of traditional cable TV and kind of the forced narratives that our traditional networks have been able to control, well, here's an opportunity. And many people are ready for that opportunity. And so even going into every local Dem group in Southwest Virginia, Southside Virginia, outside of Northern Virginia, that people are ready for this. And I look at the redistricting stuff as who am I to have to go to bed at night and look at myself in the mirror if I can't say what's on my mind, right? You look at politicians, well, that's what they do. They sacrifice their values and morals to appease other people, whoever their donors are. And it's time we change that. It's time we break that people should be able to win on who has the best ideas. And that's why I'm running, because I believe I have the best ideas compared to the competition.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more on that one, Mark, because look, and we've had conversations off camera, and I've shared like, hey, look, I've talked with some of my friends on the left that is looking at like, oh my gosh, what's the logic in this guy running? And I'm like, you have to realize, what is this country made on? What are the rules? If you see an issue and you take faith and say, you know what, or you take part in saying, let me take a leap of faith and I want to do something about it, because at the end of the day, we continue to be the group that complain, and yet we don't do anything about it. So then if someone does, because they have the right to do so, right? There's requirements, there's signatures, there's this and that. The what you had to do is not an easy thing. It's not just something, okay, I'm gonna just wake up and no, you're sacrificing the fact that, hey, look, I'm most likely gonna take a pay cut because I need to have my own schedule. I need to create my own schedule with this. And it's a huge, huge sacrifice. But at the end of the day, it shouldn't be that I feel like what is the logic? I think it's a matter on, no, I think it's important if someone believes that they can, then do so. We shouldn't have to, like, there really shouldn't be races where you run unopposed. Like, I mean, like, that's just like, come on now. To me, that's a lazy race. That's folks saying, or you can also say, hey, look, their people are set, the voters are satisfied, keep it moving. That can also be an option as well. But at the end of the day, you shouldn't be shunned from wanting to say, hey, look, I appreciate what this current person has done, but I think it's time to move in a different direction. Yeah, we can still adopt some of those things that he's brought in, but hey, it's time for new views, and that's something that's being shared amongst everybody. That's why when I laughed at the because that's when you're making it big when you're on Fox News, man. I mean, that was like, that's big time right there. And insurgent, I'm like, well, there's a lot of insurgent happening right now if you think about it. As you mentioned, linear TV cable, that's a dying entity. Independent media is continuing to grow. I mean, I don't know how many times you can see the growth in Midas Touch or the Daily Wire. I mean, it's just there's so many independent, whether if it's left leaning or conservative leaning, they are growing more independent because, like as you mentioned, corporate stuff. No, some of it is funded by the people, right, or by subscription. And we do live in a world where corporate owns Congress, corporate owns Senate. Now, maybe not some, because there's some folks in office that have a lot of money that don't really need to be bought. I'm not gonna say any names, but I mean, it's a lot of money that is being poured into politicians, races, and one of my word of the year is transparency. I've spoken with candidates running on local races, state races, hell, even federal races, and transparency always come back. And I'm like, okay, if you're a candidate fighting for transparency, how can you, or if you're even an elected official, how can you speak on transparency, but you're accepting all this corporate money? You know what I mean? Like, make it make sense. And so, when I saw that you were very vocal on, the issues like gerrymandering, which is I would say the biggest thing happening in the Commonwealth. And it's not really, it's interesting hearing from both sides, because I've spoken with elected officials in favor of it. I've spoken with elected officials that's not in favor of it. Me personally, and I've shared with both individuals, I'm like, if we currently have a congressional map that's 6-5, 6 Democrats, 5 Republicans, if somebody, from the outside looking in that's not very engaged with politics, they're going to be like, well, it seems pretty reasonable, and you want to change it to a 10-1. That seems kind of, unfair-ish, right? Like, if you're promoting fair elections, I'm like, it's just, I don't know, it's back and forth. What were your thoughts, man, as far as on let's just speaking on the gerrymandering, if you don't mind expanding that just a little more, because again, you were, I would say, the only Democrat at the time in the state of Virginia that was like not in favor of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And in going to these local meetings, it would inevitably be someone, 70 plus who would raise their hand and say, well, why do we have to do this? Because it's temporary, but it's till 2030. That doesn't seem temporary. And that it also just doesn't seem fair based off of principles of fairness.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at it, the 48% of voters in the Commonwealth, their congressional representative would change because of this. But hey, I'm all for affecting change in a way that creates disruption. But this is something that if you look at the individuals who are running for, say, this newly created 7th district that is shaped like a lobster, nothing will change. It is a reward for their fundraising or their sacrificing of their own personal values to get this done. And it's a reactionary measure to Donald Trump. And you say, well, this is how we fight back. It's the same type of effort as the No Kings March, where, I mean, when you're on your third protest, an effective protest only has one protest. And this is something that is going to then give justification to Republicans in other states to counteract what Virginia does. The two wrongs don't make a right. It is going to continue on. And it's just this short-term myopic thinking that I look at it much more as it's a way to garner attention for these state officials who will never be on a national level, but this is their response to be able to do it. Seeing that Spanberger won essentially with such a large percentage of the vote as a mandate, rather than the Republican candidate was horrible. And it's something like, I mean, beyond bad, right? Like, and I look at it as just that Virginia is a purple state. It's not a blue state. And it should be a state where ideas are up for debate and ideas aren't stifled. The same administration that wants to push forward with this gerrymandering, they can't even tax the data centers and get in the $1.9 billion that we give away each year. We've given away $4.5 billion a year overall, 4.5 billion cumulatively since 2021 to data centers, and then it's almost 2 billion this year. It's just going to keep increasing. While they talk about affordability, well, 30% of our grid goes to data centers. It's going to be 60% in the next 5 to 7 years. Then they talk about, oh, we need to fund our schools, which is why casinos are popping up everywhere, right? Because that's the only way, apparently, to plug a local budget gap while it destroys the fabric of our community and preys on vulnerable people. It's just like, this is not a party of ideas. These are actually just myopic and reactionary ideas. Attempt to gain power in a way that I don't view as fundamentally fair, in line with how most of us look at what this country is. And then lastly, we had a bipartisan vote on gerrymandering-ish in 2020 that almost 2/3 of Virginians agreed with. Now we're doing this stuff that we accuse Republicans of. This is just a power grab.
Yeah, the typical, hey, they did it, let's go fight back and forth, which will never end. Look, man, so some voters may say this feels politically convenient. Now, how do you convince Virginians this isn't just a strategy move? Because taking on a senator, like Mark Warner in a Democratic primary was too steep of a climb. How can you, what's your answer to that?
Sure. I look at it as, if no one else is going to put forth the effort to challenge a longstanding incumbent who, in my opinion, is entirely controlled by his donor class, which is wild, because if I had $250 million, the last thing anyone would be able to do is tell me what to do. I have close to $0 right now after doing this, and still no one can tell me what to do. So there's a compromise that is going on with both of our senators, really, and they do vote in tandem. But my thesis is that we're 250 years in, that the timing has never been right to break the two-party system, and it takes one candidate that is able to create a coalition that is unique, has never before been seen, that a political consultant would never be able to envision based off of their traditional thinking. And I look at it as politics is a horseshoe. And so at the bottom, you have your libertarians. And so I came out as, I want to abolish ICE. And specifically, I want to do that because, one, I know the severe effects that it's had on people who have been falsely imprisoned, one of which is a friend named Victor, who they hurt his right hand on purpose because he's a laborer, threw him in the Farmville detention center for 60 days. And when I asked him, do you think they did that on purpose, knowing that you work with your hands? And he said, yes, that it's a common thing that they do. That is not the America I want to live in, right? And then that in conjunction with the technology that ICE is using, that all of this surveillance state, so the flock cameras, of which are only put forth in predominantly minority communities in the Commonwealth, that then feed into this Palantir algorithm. If you go about 2 miles away from my house at the Home Depot, that the flock cameras are trained on every car that enters and exits the Home Depot. And they're picking up license plates, every dent, ding in your car, your passengers. But that if we don't wake up to what's going on, that the consolidation of the surveillance state and its power, we are going to be run not by our politicians, which one could argue we're not, but by these few 6 or 7 tech oligarchs, all alumni of the PayPal mafia, and that our liberties will be gone. And the libertarians, they love it. The National Party made that their stance a few hours after I tweeted that. Then you have disaffected Dems, disaffected Republicans. And my philosophy is I'll talk to anyone in any room, anywhere. And when I do, I'll get 90 to 99% of the people. There's always going to be one person just, doesn't like the way I look or whatever. And that's fine. But I'm able to go in and talk to anyone, whereas I don't see Mark Warner is able to do that. I look at it as every single college campus speaking engagement that I had scheduled, it would get canceled the day before. And I would come to find out that someone within the leadership of the college DEMS was hired as an intern by Mark Warner. Now, if you're afraid to let me speak to the college kids, it's because you're afraid that I'll win on my ideas. So if you're not going to play fair with me, then I'm going to run as an independent and put together a coalition of Hispanics in Northern Virginia, of libertarians throughout the state, of gun owners who feel that they haven't been represented, and every disenfranchised group who realizes that, hey, just because someone has come and said platitudes to us doesn't mean that they're helping us. And I believe that my ideas are structured in a way that actually benefit everyone, whether it's removing publicly traded companies from healthcare. That's a big, bold idea that if you're a senator, you have the purse strings of the government. Simple way to reform healthcare is to start by making it so that no Medicaid or Medicare money goes to for-profit publicly traded entities. Because really what led me here was when I was an investment banker and working on a deal representing a publicly traded Medicaid company. And they were going to buy a bankrupt nonprofit insurer in Chicago. And it hit me about 3 a.m. as I'm trying to massively move numbers in this Excel sheet to increase the net profit. And the biggest lever in it ended up being the reimbursement rate for patients with ESRD. So that just by one adjustment in the cell, it was going to kill poor Blacks in Chicago. And that was so wrong to me that I couldn't do that job anymore. And you realize that if a corporation has a fiduciary duty to its shareholders, but not its patients, that we've entirely lost the plot of this. And in a country where we can barely afford healthcare, that it is not a basic human right, which to me it is, I look at it as, well, we need big structural changes. Same thing with the data centers, of taxing them, being able to fund universal community college for life, because learning is something for life. Education to me is the one thing that uplifts a society, and that it's the one thing we haven't tried. We actually have not tried giving our citizens the power to grow, to develop, to constantly learn and evolve. And when we look at the threats from AI, which is supposedly the culmination of all human knowledge, well, then why aren't we making education free? That's a radical idea, because what then it does is it allows people to learn, to grow, to not fall for these systems of control that essentially, in my opinion, everything from the public school system on upwards is designed to do. It's designed to suppress people. It's designed to keep the powers that be in power and make it so that we think we're learning, but in reality, we're being told a different tale than what's really occurred.
So hearing you speak, Mark, I'm curious to ask: do you still hold your democratic values, or do you lean more like centrist, populist, independent, or moderate kind of way? Like, what is the views? Have the views fully changed, or is it simply just the fact that you have establishment preventing you from continue? Like, if you don't mind, sharing with our audience.
Yeah, no, the views haven't changed at all. I am a populist. I do believe that healthcare is a basic human right. It's a necessity. It's one that in this country so rich as we are deserving of. Mm-hmm. I also believe that all citizens should be created and treated rather equal to their creation, but that we are judged by how we treat the most disenfranchised among us. And that when we have to answer for that, for all of these actions that the current administration has taken, but also even Democrats have taken, like if you look at Steve Toscano, the Fairfax County prosecutor, who has received over $750,000 from Soros-backed dark money PACs, that he'll have emails from the Fairfax County police saying, if you release this guy, he will go out and kill someone. And that happens. And then the charges are dropped. And I look at it as it is almost by design that people are coming in, making it so that law and justice is not a thing, to create and sow chaos in our societies and our communities. That what are we doing here, right? That if I put on my investment banker hat and look at America as a publicly traded company and we the people are shareholders, well, what I realize is we have 39 trillion in debt. We have 30 trillion GDP. $1 trillion we spend per year in interest alone. We are being managed by design into bankruptcy. And that bankruptcy will happen, and we will be an asset-stripped corporation where all our money has gone out to support foreign wars, where the sons and daughters of America have gone to die, and we've gotten nothing in return for it. And that is something that I believe we're fighting a war in Iran on the behest of another country that is doing nothing for us, that we're going to have ground troops in there. It is going to be a long-term engagement. And that's because the people who make that decision are entirely captured by their donor class who wants this war. And when you look at the sentiment online, which is what I use social media for, I've had this journey in social media for the past 6 years. And yesterday it came to kind of culmination of being able to capture attention. And you see that we don't want this war. We want healthcare. That is historically, it's a very left-leaning thing to say we deserve healthcare. But now we're at a point where there's a fracturing on the right, and on the left, there's a fracturing on both sides against the establishments, because the establishments are the problem. They're the ones that actually aren't Democrats or aren't Republicans, whatever that may mean to people. And Washington warned in his farewell address that parties will divide us. They will make us focus on myopic details and make us fight, rather than seeing the 80-ish% that I believe we have in common as Americans. And corporate media has been able to control that for so long. And my bet is that we now have 7 months until the general election in November. And that over these 7 months, that going against a 71-year-old who has rumors of dementia, as once I get on a debate stage with this guy, that I will eviscerate him, because my policies are for the people. They're common sense. They're ones designed to make it so that we have a better future, because you're 31, I'm 34. I don't want to bring kids into this world the way it currently is. And in doing this, it's been, I've always known that I would be Sisyphus pushing the boulder up the hill, but one must imagine Sisyphus happy. So I take great pride and fun in doing this, because it's the right thing to do. And I view that as my patriotic duty.
Yeah. And I hear you when you mention, you have folks on the right that is frustrated as far as with the establishment, even just what's going on in Washington. You have a lot of Republican voters leaning either more centered or even possibly leaning more on the left. Likewise, Democratic voters that are also irritated with the establishment. So that being said, I would push back just a little bit as far as on the you mentioned on the protests. I know King's protest not really having effects because the protest is, which is, you make a valid point. Like, a protest is not supposed to be a long-term thing. It's usually, but hey, I look at it like this. You still have the Million Man March. You still have anniversaries of that. You have so many different the march on the Pettus Bridge out, where civil rights, like we still have these, and it's more like anniversaries, but they bring it up just to continue to, reevaluate, saying, hey, look, we've made improvements, but we still have more to go. Now, as far as for the No Kings was it had a huge jump. I think this recent, I looked at numbers, was like almost close to 9 million people, even some folks in Europe that participated in it. But I will say, I think the growth of that march was not just because you had folks that were maybe left leaning in their views, but you had a lot of Republicans that say, you know what, it's not okay what's going on, because I'm feeling the effects. Affordability doesn't just hit Republicans, independents, or Democrats, it hits all people. So you had a mixture of all. So some protests might have a little more effects, but we will see if that same number is going to come to the polls at the end of the day. If that's the major thing. You mentioned your
and to that point, because I think it's important, and sorry to interrupt, but if you look at the median age of the participant, my mother went there, right? And you look at the median age, right? It's almost more, to me, a social gathering. That protest should actually affect change. And to me, and not to make assumptions for you, but I look at this divide, this is much more age-based. That those of us who have to grow up in the future of this country, we see this is not heading in the right direction. And I look at it as this war in Iran is going to increase. It is going to create more and more tension. And that protests happen in the summer. The best protests have always happened in the summer. And that I believe that we are on the cusp, especially after patriotism rises and July 4th happens 250 years into the anniversary of this country, that people will be ready. And it's going to be an age-based revolution, not one that is political party-based, because I think we both see that if we say we have a tyrannical executive branch, well, then by design, the legislative branch is supposed to stand up and prevent that tyranny. But they don't, because they're captured. And it's like someone like a Mark Warner. I'm going to fight Donald Trump. He's doing this. He's doing that. He records himself getting driven around in a Suburban. Okay, then why are you voting for his nominees? Why are you voting for 7 nominees? You have a vote, right? Last I checked. Why do it? And then it's because he's controlled by his donor class. And I think we're about at the breaking point that will come this summer.
So do you look at that as one of, like, say, a strong case? Like in your opinion, what's a strong case that, Senator Warner lost touch with everyday Virginians? Because that, again, is when you mention when you have speaking engagements at universities in the state of Virginia, and then all of a sudden they kind of cancel it because some of their local DEMS were interns with Mark, which in my mind, I want to say, well, that's a lot of universities. But, well, if you've been in office as long as him, yeah, you're going to eventually have interns from every single university in the state. But that being said, what's your strongest case that Senator Mark Warner has lost touch with everyday Virginians? Again, this man has been in office for quite some time, but in your eyes, what is the disconnect between, the people and him?
Well, I would ask, first I would say he was a great governor. And for someone not from Virginia, he did a phenomenal job. However, and this is my thesis largely with politicians, they go to DC with good intent, but then it becomes a social activity, right? It's about where you're having dinner and who you're having dinner with, and an average person is going to get entrapped by that. That someone like a Mark Warner, I would ask what he's done actually for the people of the Commonwealth of Virginia. That every now and then he can come out and say, look what we did for affordable housing. Look what we did for one ship contract in Newport News. But you know what? We have a depleted Navy. And the economy of Virginia, a significant portion used to be based off of building ships. And for 2 summers, I worked at a firm, Kaufman and Knowles, that's in the background there. And I would look out, because I didn't like doing corporate law that much. I would look out and stare off into the harbor, and I would see these empty just wells. Why are there no ships being built? The goal of a senator is to get the most money for their area. and the most money for their people, the most government contracts. And I look at Mark Warner as he hasn't done that. Look, I want free healthcare, and to every, military industrial complex type person I meet, I think that the budget of the Pentagon should be increased, because the stronger technology, the more advanced technology we have, the more powerful we are, because it's a passive threat of violence that makes America the world's superpower. When was the last time we actually won a war? A long time ago, right? Nobody's willing to say that. But if we have this massive fleet of advanced naval technology in the Pacific theater, if we have the most advanced weapons that no one can come close to, we're never going to have to use them. It's like you walk into the gym and you see a guy juiced on steroids, you're not going to fight him, right? No matter what he's saying to you. That's what America should be. We shouldn't have to when we're using ground troops, we lost. And you think about how much all of this development could benefit Virginia. Oh, so much, right? And just even going into housing, that I look at it as, I grew up in McLean, Virginia. My father, he's a military psychologist. He retired from the VA at 77 a few weeks ago. My parents bought this house in the 90s for $252,000. Now it's worth $1.2 million. It's the same house. And if I had to fork over that amount of money, which I don't have, for that house, I would want to shoot myself. And it kind of led me down this path of like, why are the prices so much? Right?
It's crazy high. And I'm going to cut you off, but there was a study I was reading where you look at, I want to say boomers initially, bought their first home at like 30 grand. And like now it's like you see millennials, Gen Zers looking at it and like, okay, I barely can afford rent. Like I'm not nowhere near buying a home. And to add to your point, I mean, the numbers keep on increases. And it's like, you can't tell me that this is just because we've added a nice new restaurant or steakhouse and that all of a sudden it raised the property value. Like, give me a break here.
Exactly. And it leads me down this path of discovery, because it's like, it's almost like, why do we not know how the house prices go up, right? Like, well, if you look at it, since 1948, when the 30-year mortgage was created, it was almost at par with, you could buy a house based off of 1 year's salary. It was a little bit higher, but then you think about it, that a 30-year mortgage, what that does is it's designed, or it's marketed to us to make it more affordable, the monthly payment. But really, let's say you buy a $400,000 house. Over the course of that 30 years, you're paying $850,000. $450,000 is going to the bank. So more than the original purchase price of the house goes to a financial institution. So the middle class and lower class get poorer, while money and power really consolidates and it goes to a bank. And Jefferson warned that financial institutions were more dangerous than standing armies. So I start to look at it as, wait, it's the financial institutions that have all the control with the donor class, specifically like someone like a Mark Warner, who's on banking, on finance committees, right? Okay, interesting. Because if I'm a financial institution, I'm a CEO, and my compensation is based on restricted stock units, so it's tied to the price of the share price. Okay, I want more mortgages. I'm going to tell this to people. Trump came out with a 50-year mortgage. What a fucking whack job idea. And then you realize the problem is entrapping Americans with debt. We are a nation by design entrapped since 1948 in debt. And I look at it as the government should help people, right? Which is a radical idea. And that,
oh man, helping those in need.
Right?
I'll get back to you on that one.
God forbid. And we're like, affordability. What about ownership, right? What do I care about a gallon of gas if I have no prospect, no hope of owning a home?
Yeah.
And my dad said to me he sent me this email. It was like 5:30 in the morning. And he was like, if you were to put a $1 transaction fee on every domestic stock exchange, so New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, the new one they're making in Texas, okay, significant amount of money. If we put a 1% fee, right? So one that this is really only affecting people with money, that there's 200 trillion of volume in domestic-based stock exchanges. So even if we account for the fact that a 1% fee, which it wouldn't lower volume because people still want to make money, but you're taking from the algorithmic traders, from hedge funds, from activist short sellers. Okay, I don't have a problem with that because it's a fee to participate in capitalism, in our democracy.
Mm-hmm.
Our centers of finance are not going anywhere, but our government's declining.
Yes.
So if we were to do this 1% fee, I mean, we could get up to $2 trillion a year. If we even just drop that by 50%, which is a radical safety assumption,
mm-hmm.
$1 trillion a year would allow for the government to give new mortgages at, let's say it's like the trailing 5-year interest rate or whatever, plus 1%,
mm-hmm.
To every single new home buyer. And then because the government's getting that 1%, well, it starts making money. It starts to become extremely lucrative and profitable. So you take that 30-year mortgage, the government gives it to us for 20 years. So with only that added 1%, that's going to save on this $400,000 house that initially you're paying $350K in interest. Now you're only paying $100K and it's going to the government. So the government's making money. They're going to have more money to actually allocate to improvements. But this idea that may seem crazy is not crazy. The government should help people. And it starts by helping people own a home. That, initially, like going back to 1816, 40 acres and a mule, like that was promised.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at it as the mortgage, it should be 20 years. And then after that, after you pay that, then 20 years where you're building equity. And then there should be tax incentives to sell to create turnover in the market, right? Because if you're older, like, why do you need to live in a high cost of living area where people are clearly struggling, who are first-time home buyers, who are young, trying to start a family? Why are we not going to incentivize people to move to Florida or move to somewhere in Appalachia or just distribute once you've made your money? Because when you look at home buyers now, 58% are boomers, and it's not their first home. And it is something that it's like the percentage of individuals who are 30 years old, who are married and own a home, it is just gone down so dramatically. And this is a simple thing that makes full economic sense that no one can refute based off of math and logic. And that's what the government should be doing. And that's what I'm leading with now on this, because now I have the platform to say it and to ask the questions, why have we not done this?
Yeah. Mark, I have one final question. We have about 60 seconds I want to give to you. And if it's okay, I would love to chop it up with you just for a couple seconds after the show.
Yes, sir.
If Virginian voters only remember one sentence from your campaign, what do you want that sentence to be? And obviously the follow will be, why should folks consider you to be the next U.S. Senator here in Virginia?
Commonwealth, not corporate wealth. We're Commonwealth. It's time to bring the wealth back to Virginia.
All righty, folks. Well, look, I've put here on the screen for those who are watching ways you can get in contact and follow up with Mark's campaign. For those who are listening right now, is runwithmoran.com. If you want to read more on his platform, if you like what you heard here and want to continue on and listen some more, obviously, I know, Mark, you have events on this site and ways how folks can continue to support and follow up with your endeavors and all that good stuff.
Yes, sir. We do. We're going to be starting a tavern tour in a few weeks, and just going around having a cider or a drink with people, talking to all Virginians, no matter what their political views are, because we know that a campaign is supposed to unite people. It's supposed to bring people together over common ideas that are for the betterment of us all. And that's what we're here to do.
Awesome. Well, Mark, look, don't be a stranger. You're always invited here on the program. Definitely got to follow up with you and your endeavors on this race. I know it's going to be tough, but like I said, man, I'm keep me posted with everything. And we appreciate you taking the time out your busy schedule. So yeah, appreciate you again. And ladies and gents, Mark Moran, you got to remember the name. All right, folks, look, I hope you enjoyed yet another great convo here on the show. Do me a favor, stay safe, stay informed, and look, big elections happening, midterm season. I'll talk to you soon for another great episode here on the Arrington Gavin Show. I'm out.
That's it for tonight on the Arrington Gavin Show. Thanks for tapping in and keeping the conversation alive. Don't forget, stay connected with us on all platforms. Follow at Arrington Gavin on Instagram, Blue Sky, and X and subscribe to the official Substack for exclusive takes and deep dives you won't get anywhere else. We're here every weeknight, same time, same energy, same real talk. Until next time, stay bold, stay sharp, and stay true. That's what we do on the Arrington Gavin Show. Peace.